Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams, glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, shall I start the recording?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Hare Krishna. So we are we're going to discuss our next session on the topic of uncovering the science of punishments. So we'll start with the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Ashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakayam Chakshurun Militam Yenam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namah Vishnu Padayam Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I hope you all had a wonderful festivities, Govardhan Puja, Deepavali, Srila Prabhupada's Teru Bhav Utsav. So just to give a quick recap on where we left, we have been discussing about the different types of punishments, and we have already discussed about the first and second category. In our last session, we discussed about how a person who has a practicing devotee, or a person who are committing sinful activities, whether it is demigod or a kanishta or a practicing devotee, how they are dealt. So we are going to get into the third section, which is quite a detailed one with respect to 3 divisions in that. So we are going to discuss this third section of punishments and their associated learnings, maybe in 1 or 2 classes or even a little more. So just give you a heads up on how we are going. So we finished this section 3 and section 4, and then we will learn some general sets of principles associated with the practices of Krishna consciousness, and how in our overall journey in our devotional life, it is important for us to give attention to the details in our practicing in Krishna consciousness, so that we make necessary progress and eventually help others also to make progress. So as a part of section 3, we have 3 sets of people we have clustered under this section. And before we get on to that specifics, we will read a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam to learn something from Srila Prabhupada. This whole topic of this uncovering the science of punishments, as I had mentioned, for a practicing sadhaka, it is something that he needs to help himself to fine-tune his own personal practices, and he need to make sure that in his spiritual journey, he gives utmost importance to Krishna consciousness. Generally, because of our extended association with worldly minded people, we tend to kind of drift apart accidentally, purposely, or even sometimes because of some external forces, we get into some trouble. So this verse is from 5th canto, chapter 18, text 12. This is a very famous verse that Prabhupada always refers. I will just share the screen. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manoratena sati dhavato bahi. All the demigods and their exalted qualities such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of the Lord's external energy. How can there be any good qualities in such a man? Purport. I will read a portion of the purport. As explained in the next verse, Krishna is the original source of all living entities. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, where Krishna says, Namaivamso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Manashastani Indriyani Prakritistani Karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. All living entities are part and parcel of Krishna, and therefore, when they revive their original Krishna consciousness, they possess all the good qualities of Krishna in a small quantity. When one engages himself in the 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, one's heart becomes purified and he immediately understands his relationship with Krishna. He then revives his original quality of Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada explains that we are all, by our constitutional design, we are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. But because of our conditional life, because of our choice, we suffer. So, how much ever somebody may have acquired good qualities, those are all not going to come for rescue till one surrenders to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So, we are analyzing this section where three types of people are listed. The first type of people we are going to discuss is those who are punished by pure devotees for the sake of one's welfare. So it is like a pure devotee considering a person's welfare punishes. This is one category. We will analyze them, go over, why, who, what, things like that. Number two, we will discuss about a pretty large class of people where practicing devotee committing aparadha. And the third is a stable devotee who had to go through some sort of an apparent punishment and purification for removing the residual anarthas that they may have in them. So these three are three big section by itself. Each of them have got their own examples, but we are putting them into the category 3 because this is by and large our section where as sadhakas, as practicing devotees, as serious practitioners, or as those who are going through anartha nivritti, or as some of us who are trying to really become serious in our Krishna consciousness, but then have challenges. So this is technically the bhakti region. We are into bhakti, or somebody is into bhakti, want us to get into bhakti, or somebody is so kind upon us that they want us to elevate ourselves to a spiritual abode by removing the residual anarthas also. So we will discuss each of this section, each of this type under this section with some examples and some learnings. When Srila Prabhupada is writing, he is explaining that a person who is suffering with this conditioned life, he is giving this example of, he is giving this point about a person in the conditioned life struggling very hard with the 6 senses, including mind. So half of the time, challenge of a practicing devotee, even after completely surrendering to Krishna, is somehow or other his mind drags him away. So that is why he says that until and otherwise we surrender to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, which actually purifies one's mind, which actually takes care of a person to definitely bring them all the good qualities in them. Because the process of Krishna consciousness is such that, as Prabhupada mentions in the second paragraph of this purport, he says, Shri Pandita Haridasa is described as being very well behaved, tolerant, peaceful, magnanimous, and grave. In addition, he spoke very sweetly. His endeavors were very pleasing. He was always patient. He respected everyone, etc. These are all originally qualities of Krishna. And when one becomes a devotee, they automatically become manifest. So, Srila Prabhupada is trying to highlight this point that the punishment, apparent punishment or purification or cleansing of the heart naturally happens when we are introduced, when you are exposed to Krishna consciousness services, Krishna consciousness associations, and Krishna consciousness learnings. So let us go by section, and then get on this. I'll use a whiteboard. Can you all see the whiteboard?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, okay. So we are under section 3 of this. We'll discuss the first type, where a self-realized soul is trying to curse, punish a suffering soul. So we have some lessons to definitely, learn here. A self-realized soul, he has got important responsibility. So we don't need to define who the suffering souls are. We have been, at it for a while. So I will tell you 4 reasons why a self-realized soul has to do this. 4 reasons for a self-realized soul to punish or curse. Reason number 1, as Srila Prabhupada explains, a Brahmana, a devotee, a righteous person, his primary duty is to help others get cleansed. So as a matter of primary duty, and when we say primary duty, it is explained, Prabhupada says in one place, a Brahmana is the one who keeps the place cleaner than what it was before. A Brahmana is the one who tries to purify an unclean situation without being told. A Brahmana is the one who is very much interested in being part of the solution, that nobody needs to tell him for that. So a Brahmana, a Vaishnava, a devotee of the Lord considers it as his own primary duty. That is why he goes ahead. Otherwise, somebody can say, hey, hell with you. Why are you, bothering me? It is my life. But he still thinks that as a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, as a servant of the Supreme Lord, as a family, as a son of the Supreme Lord, he is not able to, keep quiet because he considers it as his primary duty. The second reason is to set precedence. The idea is that it is important that we should not let go of faults in front of us being unattended. that gives a very wrong precedence. We are going to discuss examples in this category, and the very obvious one is our Damodar Leela, pastime where Nalakwera and Manigriva being cursed by Narada Muni. So there is a important precedence that we need to set. If we get to see some things wrong that are happening in front of us, and we are not registering our disagreement, at least, if not try to fix it, then we will be implicated. This is very clear. Bhishma Pitamaha explains this as one of the reasons. So, the second reason why a self-realized soul punish or curse anyone, even though he may be a suffering soul, the sadhaka, or a struggling devotee. The third reason, which is over and above the primary 1 and 2, is by his nature, his compassion, that overpowers even his duty. Even if somebody thinks that no, these guys will not, cannot be treated. These guys are not somebody who are worthy of my advice. They still go ahead. Our great pastime of Jagai and Madai. Jagai and Madai are those who have been committing sinful activities, and Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy towards them. If you know the pastime, Haridas Thakur did not want to, proceed with Jagai and Madai because he thought they were completely in an intoxicated state. Of course, we are not trying to demean our dearest Haridas Thakur, but we are trying to highlight the extent of Nityananda Prabhu's mercy. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was trying to punish with Sudarshana Chakra, Nityananda Prabhu gave his mercy. And they gave some set of punishments to them in the form of service. It is not a punishment, it is purification and some way of life. We will discuss that. So the third reason why a self-realized soul is trying to, curse, punish, purify, engage someone in some set of menial, humble activities is also because their heart is, thriving with compassion. They're by design, they cannot remain hard-hearted. It's like motherly heart. They don't expect, they don't hold any grudge. They just simply try to bestow benediction upon suffering souls. And the fourth, as a self-realized soul, it is to be understood that they are representatives of the Supreme Lord. So they are the authority to do this. Because one is that if I am not, involved in the life of a preaching or a preacher or some sort of a specific services, but it is very clearly established that Vaishnavas are mouthpiece of the Supreme Lord. Brahmanosya mukamasid bahura janyakritaha. Purusha Sutta says. So Brahmanosya mukamasid. A Brahmana is the mouthpiece of the Supreme Lord. So they are the authority. They have full authority whether we wish or not. Government has got the authority to punish. Whether we want or not, the government has got an authority to punish. So it is not only necessarily that I do it as my duty, And duty is sometimes, seen as somebody's personal choice and, somebody's duty, but then somebody can choose to ignore, somebody can choose to take it lightly, somebody can make it into a subjective one. But is there the authorities? Who else can? If they don't punish, if they don't look into it, because they are acting on the authority of the Supreme Lord, if Krishna had seen that situation, how he would have wanted. So they actually understands the heart of the Lord, play the role, play the function of the Supreme Lord, by being his bona fide representative. So technically speaking, self-realized soul's heart and feelings are that he wants to somehow or the help set some right precedence, make sure that suffering souls suffering is mitigated and it is right to order. Somehow or other, he makes sure that he exercises authority and even go ahead in punishing. So, Nalakwara and Manigriva, in the case of Nalakwara and Manigriva, Narada Muni did it because they are sons of Kuvera and they are responsible citizens and people may point them. So, Narada Muni thought, if I do not punish them, it will set a wrong precedence. And his compassion is seen by him eventually granting them Krishna's darshan. And he exercised this with full authority. So, another example that can be given, as I was, talking about is the examples. Let us talk about the examples under this class. Is Narada Muni to Nalakuvera and Manigriva. Second example is how the way they punish. So it is not necessarily they have to punish. In case of Jagai and Madai, when Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when they want to bestow their benediction, when Jagai and Madai were delivered, the way they were delivered is glorious because of costless mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. But the entire episode did not end there. They eventually were given some very menial, humble, simple service so that they can perform that service to all the Vaishnavas for eternity. And they were not given some sort of a royal position, but they were given humble position as a matter of duty, as a matter of responsibility. It was needed for them to perform that humble role to continue to remain in their, newly got Krishna consciousness understanding. So the punishments that self-realize the soul, it need not necessarily be a deterrent clause. It could be an extraordinary mercy and deliver them and put them into some sort of situation where they will have to, keep on serving. So the second example in this category is Jagai Madai, and how Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu is helping them. And Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu helped them, purified them. So, as I said in the beginning, we are dealing with a section of bhaktas, aspiring devotees who are serious in practicing Krishna consciousness. So, the punishments are not necessarily our punishments. Punishments are also some sort of a devotional service. It is a purificatory process. It is some sort of activities by which a person can get purified. Gopala Chappal and Srivas Thakur. Srivas Thakur actually was very humble, simple devotee. But when Gopala Chapal, when he committed mistake at the lotus feet of Srivas Thakur, Krishna took an offense and he punished him. And that punishment was so extreme that Gopala Chapal's body was developing acute leprosy. So Gopala Chapal and Srivas Thakur is an example over here. And here if you see, both punishment as well as purification were, delivered. This person has committed an offense at the lotus feet. He's committed some serious act of insulting Srivas Thakur that even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wouldn't forgive him till Gopala Chapal asked for forgiveness from Srivas Thakur. So, punishment was leprosy, but what was the solution? The solution was, once again, menial services was given to him. That he was forgiven by Srivas Thakur, but Srivas Thakur, what he did, he told Gopala Chapal that you may still have some sort of a lingering animosity, so if you continue to do something under me, it won't work, so you go to Purushottam Das Thakur, and he will assist you. And one more example, if I want to give, is Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Chota Haridas. So these are all different variegated examples, but within this one, type where some extraordinary care and endeavor is given upon those who have made mistake or suffering or who wanted to, definitely purify that soul. Chota Haridas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a very, serious, he took very serious stance. Said, how can you, being in the assembly of Vaishnava, think about sense gratification? Chaitanya Charitamrita very nicely explains about this particular episode. To an extent, Chota Haridas felt, very embarrassed, very sorry, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very stern. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has exhibited in his manifested pastime all the three types. One is he was extremely merciful and gave mercy to all those innocent. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was extremely strict and kept himself very tight, both in case of Pratap Rudra, in case of how he responded to Chota Haridas. You see why Mahaprabhu is so stringent and so tough. And Mahaprabhu also had become in the completely intoxicated state. Mahaprabhu had also made even animals chant and dance. So Mahaprabhu, he had exhibited different varieties of emotions in different situations, but all three are naturally possible in a practicing devotee. So I want to give these 4 examples for this particular type where we get to learn a self-realized soul is trying to help, is trying to deliver, is trying to bestow his special mercy, is trying to purify suffering souls. That suffering soul could be because of his past sins or because of his association or because of his whatever conditioning. But then it is important that there are some possibilities, some ways. So these agents, these authorities of the Supreme Lord, their purpose of traveling around the world is not for honoring prasadam or enjoying some, international tour. Prabhupada writes in one of the purports in Bhagavatam that when Vaishnavas, they travel around the world, when Vaishnavas go from places to places, they go for delivering the suffering souls. They can very easily sit and enjoy in one place and try to have their bhajana done. But because of their costless mercy, out of compassion, they travel around and try to help the suffering souls. So this is the first type of people under this section, section 3. So they consider as a primary duty out of setting a precedence, make because of one's natural compassion and mercy in their heart, and exercising the authority of being the representative of the Supreme Lord, a self-realized soul, or Supreme Lord's agent, or even Supreme Lord in some cases. They give punishment as well as they give some process of purification and fix the suffering soul. So this is purely mercy flowing. If you look at this, the categories that we have, the examples we have given, there was no special endeavor done by Nalakwara or Manigriva. It was not endeavor of Jagai and Madai. It was not endeavor of Gopala Chappal, apart from him screaming for help from the suffering situation, because he was still not endeavoring for bhakti. He was just endeavoring for getting rid of his leprosy. So the idea is that all these kind of people, it only shows that the mercy coming from the self-realized souls are the only reason why they are purified. Otherwise, they'll continue to suffer. That is what we are singing always in our prayers. Jogyata vichare kichu nahi bai tomara karunachara karunana hoile kandiya kandiya pranana rakirvara. So we pray to the Gurudev to say that I have analyzed my yogyata. I have no yogyata. So please bestow your special benediction upon this fallen souls. Otherwise, I have no way by which I can help myself. So this is the first type of people that we have spoken about. The second type of people that we will discuss now is something that we will go on for probably little detail, is about the practicing devotee committing aparadha. So this practicing devotee committing aparadha, this particular type of is a very common in our Krishna conscious journey. So type 2 is sadhaka committing aparad. So what are the 4 types of aparad? Nam aparad, Dam aparad, Seva aparad, and Vaishnava aparad. Anyone who commits these 4 types of aparad, aparad means against Srimati Radharani. Already as a part of our discussion in our session 3 or session 2 of this course, we discussed about the entire flow chart of what happens when a person commits aparad. Now we will slightly discuss in more detail on this topic of aparad, because this is a very, very relevant situation, or very much in our practicing days. So we will go to Vaishnava literatures to study something about aparad. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes so many points with respect to this particular situation of people committing offenses. I will just read a few quotes of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So, in Jaiva Dharma, chapter 11, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, we consider that it is essential to arouse love towards the Supreme Lord by any means possible. The door leading to gradual elevation is firmly shut if people on any level of worship are ridiculed or condemned. Those who fall under the spell of dogmatism and thereby become sectarian lack the qualities of generosity and munificence. That is why they ridicule and condemn others who do not worship in the same way as they do. This is a great mistake on their part. So we are going to study the learnings of this particular section. So like how we discussed the 4 reasons why this mercy has been flowing towards suffering souls, even though those suffering souls are those, people who received mercy, they didn't seek for them. Here also we are going to learn lessons on this aparat. The very first lesson is to note what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that if anyone lacks the quality of generosity and munificence, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, even if you ridicule anyone at any level of worship, then their devotional life is at stake. You may be a sincere seeker towards pure devotional service to get pure love of the Supreme Lord. But if someone starts to ridicule, someone starts to offend, condemn anyone's worship. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a very strong acharya who raises his voice against such batamis, such bad behaviors of a practicing devotee. He's very strong in raising his voice against that. He says that by somebody ridiculing, so lack of generosity and munificence is the reason. What is this? What does that mean actually? This means that a person is not broad-minded. So when somebody is not broad-minded, then they tend to commit an aparat. They tend to commit an aparat. In our lives, being broad-minded is itself a very, very, very big challenge. Somewhere or the other in our heart of heart, we have a justification saying that I am duty bound, I will do my duty, I will take care of myself, I will be righteous, I will see to that I take care of, my devotional life, and that's it. But unfortunately, that's not it. Because our devotional life is dependent on our personal Krishna consciousness. Our devotional life is dependent on the association that we seek in the company that we seek. So it is important to note that our devotional journey is supported by so many like-minded devotees association. In Chanakya Niti Shastra, there is a very interesting statement. It says, Pakshina kakashaha chandala pasunam chaiva kukuraha muninam papas chandala sarva chandala nindaka. Among birds, the crow is wild. Among the beasts, the dog. The hypocritical ascetic whose sins is abominable, but he who blasphemes others is the worst Chandala. Chanakya Pandit says that crow is wild. Amongst the beasts, dog. It is very unusual to hear this, right? Because sometimes we think that dog is the most loyal, but there is a perspective that the dog is loyal for a reason, or because attached to the master, but it is very selfish, self-centered, possessive, or you can even say that according at least Chanakya Pandita, he says that among the birds the crow is wild, and among the beasts the dog. So I do not want to analyze this because sometimes it is offensive in some social circle to discuss about pets and their behavior. So I'll stop there. The hypocritical ascetic who sins is abominable. Hypocritical is a very pakhandis, one who looks like a devotee. That's bad. But he who blasphemes others is the worst Chandala. So it is important to note this. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur further says, he's saying, a practicing devotee may go through his own stages of purification. So one should be very careful. So he is identifying 3 stages of a practicing devotee. And in any stage of his practicing, if you offend him or if you insult him, then that is a Vaishnava aparad. He says, in our progressing stages of Krishna consciousness, a Vaishnava may have impurities that are persisting for a long time because of his long conditioning. He may have impurities that must have come accidentally. A person may have acquired impurities because of one's past. He says, impurities that have come from someone's past is called pragutpanna. Impurities that are, that are there persisting but slowly perishing, because they have been persisting for a long time, but because they have come to Krishna conscious, they are slowly perishing. So it's called Kshayavasishta. And impurities that are accidentally, manifested in someone, it's called Daivotpanna. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, anyone who ridicule, offend, even such type of person is an aparad. So we are just discussing about the aparad, and we will look at the deterrence and the purification in our subsequent session. So my second lesson with respect to this point of aparad is that one should learn to be conscious of the fact of evolution in Krishna consciousness. So one should be very careful that in his Krishna consciousness evolution, that people go through certain stages of purification, and still we may have impurities, but allow them to go through them. And if you do not and try to find fault, which technically brings us to a very larger and most important question is, are we having any rights to comment, judge, be critical about any devotee? The answer is no. The general answer is no. And Srila Prabhupada writes, Srila Prabhupada personally says in one place that I am forced to criticize my own disciples and those who have come to me for instruction. But I do not understand why you would do that. This is letter dated 4th December 1931. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote, he says, I received your card dated November 26 and another letter following that. Srimad Bhagavatam has instructed us not to praise or criticize others' nature or activities. It is said also in Chaitanya Bhagavata that one goes to hell by criticizing others. My instruction to you is not to criticize others, but to correct and purify yourself. As we all know, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj is a strong propagator of self-purity. So that is why the second point is one should learn to be conscious of the fact of one's evolution in Krishna consciousness. Because this evolution in Krishna consciousness is pretty gradual, and Krishna treats a person who is working in his Krishna consciousness. Madhurya Kadamini very clearly says, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura very clearly says, several acharyas very clearly mentions that if work is in progress, how much ever he may have anarthas or mistakes, but if he is cleansing, if he is working, he is chanting, he is endeavoring, then please give him that benefit of doubt that this process will work upon him, and I have to not to ridicule or condemn or criticize. That may be detrimental to my devotional life. So the third aspect that we are going to learn with respect to aparadhas are, one need to understand a person is committing an aparadh because of anarthas in the heart, and these anarthas are of four types: duskridota, sukritota, aparadota. And bhaktyadota. These anarthas and aparadh are interconnected. They are kind of two sides of the same coin in one sense. Duskridota means a propensity, a kind of mindset one inherits because of one's past sinful activities. So one commits certain activity because of his past sin. Sukritota means one's anarthas because of past pious activities. Because even pious activities give some results. Even pious activities give some outcome. Even pious activities are something that can bother someone, that can put someone in some sort of a state where he can commit mistakes. So Kuvera's sons, they were not born just like that in Kuvera's family. This is because of some sukriti they must have done. That is why they are in the heavenly planets. But because they misbehaved, they are supposed to be punished. Duskritota is because of somebody's past sinful activities. People are suffering in different hellish life, different types of constrained life. And aparadhota is what we are currently discussing, where one aparadh leads to another aparadh. Anarthas are coming because of an aparadh. So this is because of one's offenses. So it's kind of a nested loop where an anartha leads to an aparadh, and because of an aparadh not properly fixed, one can acquire a nature of committing mistakes and eventually suffering. And the fourth one is very interesting. The fourth one is called bhaktyadota, because of the results of devotional life. A person performing devotional life, he may get name, fame, power, position, followers. because of that also. So a person commits an aparadha because of someone's anarthas, and these anarthas are of arising because of one's past sin, past bias, one's own offenses, and eventually even devotional life, if they are not properly handled. If somebody dwells on the results of bhakti but not on the agenda of bhakti, then that can also give some sort of an unwanted outcome, and those outcome needs to be fixed. Otherwise we are punished, otherwise we have to go through some sort of a purification. So our third lesson with respect to anarthas, aparadhs, or that anarthas in our heart that are not dealt properly, we are going to continue to suffer. So under this section, we have several examples of devotees, or several, references that we can give, where a person who has committed an aparadh, they have to go through several sets of purifications. Here, aparadh not only refers to um, something that because of devotional interest, but even if someone in a very responsible position, because of overlooking, because of not taking cognizance of his positions and power and accidental mistakes, is also treated in this category because he is expected to be responsible. So we will be discussing more points under this. There are a wonderful table that I have prepared for discussing about this aparadha and associated behaviors. So we will discuss that in our next class. But I just want to summarize our today's learning in terms of the section 3 of the punishments. We need to note that this section 3 has got 3 types that we are discussing. Type 1 is of those self-realized souls. Out of their costless compassion, they are trying to deliver a fallen souls. Type 2 is about those sadhakas who commits aparadh. And type 3, which we have not yet started, we are still in type 2. In type 3 are those who are stable devotees because of some conditioning, because of some residual attachments, they have to go through certain verifications. So as a matter of type 1, we discussed that it is important to note that a Vaishnava, because of his duty, because of his authority over the subject, and because of his natural compassion, as well as wanting to set some precedents, they try to take some steps forward in fixing the mistakes. And we gave example of Narada Muni trying to deal with Nalakwara or Manigriva. We spoke about the example of Gopala Chapal. We spoke example of Jagai Madai. So these all examples have got different varieties, but the net result is to purify. The net result is to deliver. The net result is to somehow or other bring them back to their consciousness from their intoxicated state. So their agenda is not to punish in terms of putting them in distress. The agenda is to somehow or other give extra mercy. So this particular type where Vaishnava is giving his mercy is purely his causeless mercy. And there is no specific endeavor. So that is why they're all called kripa. Some kripa siddhas or somebody who has received the mercy are very, very fortunate. And the type 2 of devotees, or type 2 of people, are those people like us who are practicing devotees, who are going through their stages of anartha and everything. They are in different stages of devotion, but they accidentally, purposely, because of conditioning, commits aparadh. 4 types of aparadh that we know: Nam, Dham, Seva, and Vaishnava aparadh. And this aparadh, we are learning some lessons under this. We said that number 1, lack of generosity and munificence, and lack of this clarity that a person's journey towards loving the Supreme Lord will get hampered by one criticizing others. One should learn to be conscious of the fact. One should be learning to be, understanding that the process of evolution of Krishna consciousness, people go through certain, stages of purification, and some impurities will still be seen. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur stated this: impurity is born out of someone's past activities. Impurity is born out of somebody's impurities are still perishing, but it's not fully gone. And impurity is born out of situations where a person accidentally had made mistakes. So all of those things are supposed to be not seen as someone's mistake. And if somebody criticizes them, then it becomes an aparad. Then we spoke about anarthas and 4 types of reasons why a person acquired some nature. So it is because of someone's past sins. Sukrutota, Dushkrutota, Pradota, and Bhaktyadota. So we will continue from this point in time in our next class about discussing about the type 2 under section 3, where we are discussing about Vaishnava aparad or any types of aparad, how they need to be handled and how they are important to be purified. Otherwise, it will be like a mad elephant trying to completely destroy our Bhakti Lata beads that is sown in the heart. So I'll stop here and take up any questions or comments or reflections or any corrections for that matter. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the detailed explanation and also the summary at the end, covering all the topics together. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Do we have any questions on the forum? Questions, comments, or realizations for Prabhuji?
No.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, we can stop here.
We will stop here, but we'll continue again next week and we'll move on to the next section, which would encompass, I believe, Vaishnava Aparad. So, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, dear devotees. Thank you, dear Prabhuji. We will end the call here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Shri Pad ki jai. His Grace Ramagiridhari Prabhuji ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.